Well, welcome back to the podcast. And I'm really happy that we can get to have this conversation. I know that your head's now probably in Belize and Canada mixed.
That's right.
As you and your family of 4 children decide to go off to a new part of a life, meaning that you're going to be back and forth, of course.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting change, and I wasn't sure that we get a chance to capture some of the things that I really thought would be interesting for us to talk about, because we've had this kind of, partnership of working together for many years, really incorporating the arts, but especially with a focus of social transformation. So I'm excited that we can just gaff about it, as the Guyanese would say.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here, as always. I mean, I'm always in this room, in this building, but yeah, soon I'll be in here a little less.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting process to prepare to leave and think about when I'm coming back. And yeah, I will be coming back quite a bit, I think, but not as much as normal.
Right.
Obviously.
One, in thinking about this, because we've always collaborated, talking and getting excited about what are the opportunities and things that we see. But I think what might be of interest, then there's so many stories that of the transformation of the people that became involved in the arts through this process of trying to be of service to the greater community and create art that really has meaning and purpose and makes a difference somehow and offers an alternative to maybe things that aren't exactly, helpful. But I think I know that in the beginning of, we've talked for a long time, but in the development of the school, there were points where you did other things and then came back. And, what I've admired a lot of times is that you've always been able to keep your purpose clear, even though you're working in an environment and an industry that is very seductive in 5 million directions. Mm-hmm. So I thought maybe you should, how did you do that?
Yeah, well, I'm happy you've noticed that because it's been very intentional. And the funny thing is, at first, I couldn't do that. I had this big, theoretical concept that I want to create music that uplifts the world and is spiritual and beautiful and builds community and all that since I was like 16, 17 years old. But I actually was faced with a moment where I got a phone call like, hey, you're going to be rich and famous. Come make music for this young singer girl. And took the opportunity. And then while we were there, it started getting a little weird. Like there was a team put around. And one of those team members was saying like, yeah, make it about sex, and it was so, and then we didn't try to do that. That's kind of how that person interpreted what we wrote, because we were writing songs but it just felt so weird. But I didn't do anything about it actually. And I just went with it. I was, I guess you could say, naive, a little bit or whatever it is, or lacking the strength. I didn't know I could just voice my opinion, whereas now I would. And the amazing thing was that project kind of got shelved, which I'm so grateful for, because that led me to a youth camp at the Lou Helen Baha'i Center in the United States. Well, I was going to plan to go there anyways, but I had no money. I was working at the studio there in Toronto. I had no money. And I decided, no, I said I would go. Let me go to this youth camp. And at the youth camp, there was a bunch of djembes and drums. And over there, the point of that camp wasn't music. The point was, spiritual upliftment and deepening together and to empower the next generation to go and be of service to the world, right? So it's a huge, noble goal. But in line with that vision, how does music happen? It doesn't happen like, oh, one person is the star, which is what we're used to in our society. It happens like, here's a bunch of djembes and let's just drum. And I found myself drumming with the group almost every day. And in that moment, I realized that's why I love music. And I forgot about my own vision that I had. And I thought I was really firm in it, theoretically. But when faced with one challenge, I folded immediately, right? So technically, I'm a weak person. Well, I think we all get faced.
In that case, we all are.
We all get faced with a test, and it's easy to say you believe a thing, like, oh, I believe I'm going to do this. But when you're faced with that moment, that's when you really find out. And I think we can be of two minds. Like, there's what we believe through our actions and what we believe in our words.
Yeah.
And they don't always align, and that's okay. That's the human experience. But I think life is really about finding a way to align those things. And it's a challenge. So here at Nancy Campbell is where I've been able to align those things. I can actually do, and I'm supported, by yourself and the other colleagues, to do exactly that. How do we make music together in a way that's empowering, uplifting? It doesn't allow for one person to shine above the rest in an unnecessary way. There's nothing wrong with, praising great talent. But there is something wrong with cutting people down, and then I won't belabor it too much, but I've seen out there in the world, you were talking about going out there. I've seen these youth talent contests. I've been to a few of them. I've been invited to be at some, and I've just popped into some, and they all have a similar thread, which is criticism equals experience, which I don't agree with at all, personally, now. And now I know it. I actually think criticism stifles growth. That's what I actually know now as a fact. But on those panels of judges, you'll see a young 12-year-old girl go on stage and sing her heart out. She's been preparing for 6 months. She sang her heart out, and someone will say, "You suck. You shouldn't sing. Choose a different career." It's shocking to me. So this kid goes home, cries himself to sleep, and they didn't win anything. And then the one who wins, is praised. "Oh, you're the best."
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we doing? Whereas here at this Nancy Campbell, we've been able to say, okay, yes, some of us might suck at singing. That's okay. Or suck at guitar, but that's not what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on who really has the courage to share anything artistically, and we're going to cheer on the courage for sharing.
Yeah.
And we've actually seen examples of a student in grade 9 or 10 who, technically speaking, can't sing well, but through encouragement,
Many examples,
through encouragement and love and, little feedback here and there, it's not even criticism. It's just, hey, hold that mic closer.
Like fine-tuning and not in a devastating way.
Fine-tuning in a non-devastating way as their inner courage is built, right?
Yeah.
Then naturally they start to hear themselves and I'm off pitch. Okay. It's like, yeah. And then how do I get on pitch? I've had a few students say that, I just realized I don't really sing very well.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, you have the raw talent, so you just need some singing lessons. You got to practice. So,
Yeah, I think that's, when you're talking, I was thinking, I think it's bound up with how we think about people. And, when we think about youth or anyone as a mine rich in gems, as the writings talk about.
Of inestimable value.
Yeah, and that we have noble natures. A noble nature would imply that you have judgment about what is good and what is appropriate, and every one of us has to develop our value system of what we value. But I agree with you that ultimately, usually at best somebody needs a hint in the right direction. And they, because of their own thinking and reflection and their own work on trying to develop and evolve their skill, they come to know what needs to be done. And this idea of kind of our own self-reflection is more powerful. And I think also when you're in a teaching role or a judging role, there's ways to do that that align the values and the purpose, but also do it in a way that develops some kind of inner architecture or wisdom in the students. So lots of times I know I'll watch one of the dance workshops performance, and I really try my best to remember to say, well, how did you feel about that before I say anything? Because then I find it's even easier, because usually people are pretty, straight, well, we messed up this and we did that. And it was good overall, but, so it allows me then to just maybe emphasize something a little more, but I don't have to be the one that is decreeing something, that they're waiting for the moment, which is and I think there's other methods of how we empower, encourage, and develop.
Yeah, it's a matter of process over product.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can have the most incredible dancers ever, and they can create the most incredible dance performance ever, but they've achieved it through yelling at each other, putting each other down.
Yeah.
Then in our sort of environment here, we would consider that a failure.
Yeah.
Even though it was technically great art, right? We would say
the result might be great.
Yeah, the result was great. The product was great, but the process to achieve that product meant we didn't uphold each other's nobility.
Yeah.
Therefore, that was a failed thing. But what we have seen quite a bit of is, the art product was good enough, but the process that we achieved was respecting everyone's nobility. And that is a great success. And that's when we feel there's actually been so many moments. It's like the spirit takes over, almost the spirit of that process. And we actually perceive the art as better than it actually is. That's happened multiple times. I thought
because the experience was so
great.
great.
That's the best singing I've ever heard. And I go back and listen to the recording, and I go, "Ooh, actually, that was flat and sharp and off pitch the whole time. Timing was off, whatever." But and then I've reflected on it for many years. That's because our process was achieved.
Yeah, that's a very good.
And sometimes we achieve the light upon light, which is we respect each other's nobility through the process of creating art together as a group. But also there's excellence in the product. And that is the goal. We're not trying to make a presentation that's subpar. We want the best presentation ever, but not at the cost of putting each other down and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, and of course, I think the refinement of skills is always something that we have to be committed to the pursuit of excellence, but not at the cost of the human beings around us,
Exactly. But that's what's the word? Revolutionary, because that has been the template.
Yes.
Forever, and still is in many cases.
Yeah.
And also what I said about criticism equals experience. Like if you have experience, you're allowed to be critical of those around you. That's also the template. It's like, oh, well, that's Gordon Naylor. He's the best rapper I've ever seen. So then you're allowed to be rude to me, someone who's trying to learn how to rap.
Yeah.
That's not what we do here. To us, it's almost like jarring, but that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm the best guitar player in the world. And then therefore I can be critical of you.
Yeah, it's very, in the end, it is kind of an arrogant stance. And I think it actually turns a good number of people off, that don't feel that they can even function in that environment. That's another element that I've seen being so important at the school is when students decide to try things who really may have come from a system that has not encouraged them at all. And then if there's criticism of if their peers are going to be critical or they sense that in the air, then it actually is very paralyzing for them.
Yeah.
Where, and we've seen lots of examples, and you encouraged it a lot, which was when somebody fails, then clap and be excited about the fact that they tried this and they got to here and now they're going to carry on even after that. It creates an atmosphere where risking and failing to do something just means it's just a step in the road to developing.
Yeah.
So
I had students say one time, like many years ago, why would I clap for them if they suck?
Yeah.
Good point. Because we're also saying we should be truthful.
Yeah.
We should be truthful, right? So am I lying by clapping for this person who's technically singing poorly? And that's where the answer is developed over many years is a simple statement, usually shows many years of experience behind it. And the statement is, we clap for courage, not for talent.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a simple thing, but it's very hard to do. And the thing I love most about that is that doesn't mean that we've achieved that as a community, and that's always what happens. That means that's just a learning that's emerged, and every year we have to kind of relearn it and build it,
and
right?
employ it as a way of.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing that has been really, really clear to me about every aspect of education is the lack of a consciousness that everything needs a developmental approach. That, we're here and we're going to go through stages of development. So like you were saying, a singer in grade 9 who, is really struggling but really wants to be there and really is committed, by the time they get to, grade 11 or grade 12, they've really put a lot of energy into that. And because they were encouraged at that early stage, and the errors were not the focus, but like I always think about percentages. Like if, 60% of what you heard was good, then the dominant message has to be, this is good. And if we keep up our commitment and we keep refining, then it's going to get better, because we're thinking about it in a developmental way. And I've had people say to me, why do you let them sing like that? Like they're off key. And at that moment, I would say the same thing, that, okay, that they are now, but I'm sure actually that they're getting insight. And we do a lot of recording too, so they get to see themselves sometimes and then listen later and say, oh my God, I need to change that. So there's other feedback loops that aren't devastating to the process of development.
Yes.
And the other exciting thing about development that I think about is people that I didn't expect were actually going to make it, and not only make it, do a great job,
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think you mentioned inner architecture. I think that's huge. I have professionally a few colleagues that I collaborate with, and we don't clap for courage. Actually, we're past that. So it's a developmental approach. Yeah. We have the inner architecture, not only within ourselves as individuals, but also as a team, a collaborative team. So we can cut straight to the point of refinement for that song we're working on.
Yeah.
And actually it saves time. It would be a waste of time for us at the level we're at to say, hey, great job, singing. It's like, we know. Okay, we're there, we're past it. But at this age of, between 12 to 18, it's critical. It's actually the most important thing if we want arts to be part of our communities. Young people have to be encouraged and they have to receive love for their attempts, right? And my brother Sky is a art professor, and I asked him, how do you get somebody going with art? I was actually asking for myself, because I've always wanted to paint, but I just feel like I suck at painting, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah, you've got...
I haven't developed inner architecture for painting.
Yeah, so it's a bit more fragile than your other arts.
Yeah, and exactly. And what he said actually helped me, and I actually did do a little painting. And what he said was, you just take the paintbrush and you put it to the paper. So he simplified it. He just made it, because I think he could tell that's the step I'm at.
Get started.
And he's been teaching for so many years too, so he knows. And that's what I think you were just mentioning. It's developmental in their stages. So it's on us as the educators or facilitators of this space to really consider each person one by one. Okay, what stage is that person at? What stage? And not do a blanket treatment, like, you have to achieve this level before you do that level. It's like, it's dynamic. There's emotions involved. Or maybe this person's at this level of singing, but they're going through some personal struggles.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's accommodate for that. We're humans, and it's a messy process.
Yeah, yeah. And I think if we think, there's a quote that says, beware, lest ye hurt any soul. And I think if you're in the position of, you can understand these contests where they're looking for something, say, to record. So they want to find the one person out of 1,000 that is going to be where they want them to be now, which would be a much better way to say it. We're looking for somebody right now. You should keep working on this and come back because you have talent. It's just where we need that to be now is at a higher level of refinement. But so in other words, you don't have to devastate somebody. You can figure out creatively how to let them down.
Yes.
That brings me, maybe we'll switch a little bit because it's one thing to, at the school, we have this standard of we really want to utilize the arts for social transformation. And our students consult about the social reality of things and try to figure out how to make an effective contribution to help develop things more. And when you're trying to put that into your art, it's more sophisticated. And sometimes I think about it like, when you hear a comedian who just potty mouths their way through, that can be funny just because they're shocking. But if they really want to develop their comedic skills, they have to really have such a higher level of perception and deliver that in humor. So taking a reality of something and delivering it in their art is not easy. And so in music, in the kinds of things you've been involved in trying to align your own life with your purpose, and there is a quotation that talks about how art actually is a far more effective way of spreading things than cold rationalizing. Not because there's something wrong with cold rationalizing, but you have to follow a series of logical argument, and lots of people aren't even interested. But, it was like one of my friends said about racism. He said that racism is not just ignorance and prejudice. He said what he realized, and he was, someone who'd studied it a long time and worked in it and helped organizations with it. He said the problem with racism is it's not just ignorance, it's an emotional commitment to ignorance. And that was like a revolutionary kind of thought. But
I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's kind of, and he said, and that's what makes it so hard to get rid of, because it's not just that you're ignorant. Because even if you learn that, okay, that's not right to do that, but you still have this emotional commitment to what it is you believe. And I think art kind of does that with good things as well. Like if you have a commitment to something that you're trying to help encourage in the community, then art can give it wings or give that emotional commitment to that issue. Not so that we're so passionate that we're, ignorant about how we go about it, judging people and so on, but how to really, it's such an educating factor. And I've seen so many examples of that at the school, and you've been involved in so many. So maybe you could say a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well,
or give us some experiences that you
I've
might
actually,
have seen.
I've seen many examples of this taking place, and it's because it's what we do here. That's the modus operandi.
Yes,
right.
true.
That's what we do. So there's so many stories and examples of it. But one thing I've observed over the years is that there's levels to expression. And I've actually analyzed lyrics of songs with students and youth all over the place. And a lot of popular lyrics in these popular songs don't even hit level 1 of expression, right? And I'll just share those levels if that's okay. So level 1 is expression of self. For example, I'm angry, if saying that one way or another in the song, that would be considered a level. You've expressed yourself. This is great. And all the levels are great. Level 2 is expression of surrounding. So I'm angry because this and this is happening. So you give us context to that emotion. So that gives the listener more of an understanding of why you're angry. And then level 3, which is, I used to think was the highest level, but we'll get to the highest level, is expression of solution. And that doesn't mean that the songwriter needs to have all the answers. But it does mean that they would at least express the desire for a solution to what they're expressing, so that the listener is left with hope. And that means that as an artist or songwriter or whatever we're doing, we have a responsibility to leave our listeners with hope. So it's okay to reflect the darkness of our world. It's a good thing, actually. But if we only reflect the darkness, then someone who's having a great day could come across our art and now have a bad day.
Yeah.
We could turn
Yeah.
their whole life around. And actually my wife, Julie, she said that one time she was coming back because she was a student here many, many years ago. And she was coming back on the bus from Wildfire to the school. And she listened to, I think, a Green Day album or something. And she had never heard that album before. And she said she was so happy from being at Wildfire, like on cloud nine, And then by the time she got back to Stratford, she was depressed. She was so sad. And then she realized, oh, it's this music. So she went back to listen to it. She said, oh, each song is making me more and more sad. And it's like, and that means they've really achieved that first level. They've expressed the emotion.
Yeah.
Great. But if we can somehow learn to take that to the next and the next level, then we leave the listener with, oh, okay, that's a sad thing, but okay, there's a hope for us.
Yeah.
And then the highest levels, there's three more, I'll say them quickly, is it's all about love. Because I was thinking, my levels don't really account for many love songs. And love songs are out there and will forever be the most popular type of song.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first level is love of self, to be able to express that in a positive way, not in a super egotistical way, but just love.
Right.
Then love for another. So that's the next level.
That's another.
And the highest of all expression levels is love for our Creator. Love for God or Allah or the universe, whatever we will want to call that entity, that force that is greater than all of us. If we express love for that, that's the highest level in my estimation, my experience so far. And so if we can sit down together and think of those levels and then write with intention, create with intention, knowing those levels, then what we create becomes timeless. It's not a flash in the pan. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with making things that don't hit any of the levels. It's just a matter of consciousness, being aware. Yeah. Because I say that because when we analyze lyrics especially with students and young people of popular songs, that the main response I've heard across the board is, oh, I don't like this song anymore. Yeah. I don't want to hear this song. So it's just a matter of knowing what's being said, why is it being said, who made it, why did they make it, what are the main values at play in here, which level of expression is it, and do I want that for myself in my life?
Yeah.
And if the answer is a really strong no, then you may decide to not listen to it or watch that movie or whatever it is. It's really fascinating that and that has to do with social transformation, because if we're able to go higher in those levels and really think about what we're creating when we create it together, it's actually quite easy to achieve this social transformation. But that process is harder than it sounds, because everyone says the same thing. Oh, it's going to sound corny. It's going to be lame.
Yeah.
It's not cool. That's the greatest struggle. But I've seen it, and we've seen examples of stuff being awesome and really cool, and it's achieving these levels and
and it's like I remember going to the event that we had at the museum.
Rock the Muse,
and you were performing with your group, and something that struck me was you were really talking about some hurtful stuff and things that had happened in your life, really taking all the risks that artists do to put it out there. But then you were also in the same, it achieved that because it kind of took it from there. So now what am I going to do with all this, mess? And these things may have happened to me. I guess it touches me at the level that I often in my work and social work talk to people about. You may have been victimized, but you're not a victim. You are a transcendent being. And so, I saw in that music that you were doing that there was no watering down of the pain and difficulties, or it didn't sound corny. In fact, if anything, it was pretty dramatic in some of the places. But then it went from there to, kind of like, despite whatever happens, I'm going to keep contributing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you felt that. that was an interesting set because I purposefully chose songs in a certain order to take people on a journey of the levels of expression.
And you could see that in the audience. You could really see what resonated, even the painful parts, because every one of us has had things that have happened along those areas, some much worse than others. But, in the end, it's still our life, and we still have to gather what we have and not let it make us, it's not this, we're not the sum of all of our negative experiences. We're, if anything, that's a way for us to make sure we're not perpetuating. And that's when I think what you're describing about the levels, I think that's when you start to see art as part of culture and a civilizing process, that it releases a power to civilize us more, not to degrade us or make us feel it's hopeless or, there's nothing there. It creates a different vision. I'm thinking there is a problem that maybe we should talk a little bit about, because I know you've done some creative stuff. Like our own work together has kept evolving organically in terms of the studio. And even though now you've launched Fresh and Free and it's been doing some amazing things and some amazing recordings and contributions with artists coming from California and other places, but all this costs money, and to do recordings costs money, and I'm sure you get approached by all kinds of artists who want to record but can't afford.
Yes.
And this is, a world-class studio that you have here. So, people know pretty quickly or start to hear, but then it's always the thing about cost. And you've come up with some creative solutions.
Yeah.
Not always, but as much as you can.
Yeah.
And got support. So I'm just thinking it might be really a little bit helpful to say something to artists who are struggling with that stuff, or, even someone who wants to be of service to do recording and so on, like how to approach that creatively, because I think you've thought out of the box quite a bit.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I've had my own experiences as an artist before I learned about audio engineering and recording and production. And so to open my own studio, I'm taking all my experiences into account. And so I would say the number one thing that I'm doing differently as a studio is just being very upfront about everything, just saying it costs this much to do this, boom, which for some reason isn't always the case. And the other thing I'm doing differently is...
the cost is always the case, but the fact is people don't tell you up front what you're in for.
Yeah, and then also the cost can change. Like if you take another 15 minutes, if you do 15, it's an hour. Oh my God. And whereas I will just say up front, you're paying for the day and it's about 8 hours. But if we need an hour to load in, an hour to clean up, and if we go overtime a bit, it's okay. I want your vision to come to life. But then I'll also say up front, you need to be ready that maybe we don't achieve everything you want to achieve in that time.
Yeah.
So I kind of from experience I'm sharing. And that actually just happened this past weekend. So we learned that, we had a goal of doing 11 songs in a day, which is a dramatically large amount of work to do.
Right.
But we ended up with 7. But we're 7 that we're proud of, right?
That are great.
Great. And that's the amount of time that it took given the conditions that we were working with.
And that was a shoot with an outside band.
Yeah, as a whole team of musicians, right? And then also things kind of change as the day goes. Oh yeah, let's actually add a rhythm section on this one. Okay, so that's more time to set up microphones and whatever.
And art is creative, so it always can keep expanding. And then
exactly. And then the other thing that I had an aha moment about I would say about 8 months ago was I said I was actually in a classroom up here and on the whiteboard. And I was, okay, what can I do to get the studio really going? And I said, okay, artists don't have money. Studio needs money to operate.
It's a practical
That's the problem. That's the problem. So I can't keep doing free work, which I've been doing for 20 years. So what do I do? And I said, and it just clicked for me. It was crowdfunding, right? Which is not even a new concept, but the concept of a studio committing itself to crowdfunding. So that's what I did. And I offered it to 10 artists actually. and only one took me up, and that was Shatira Jackson, who came in this weekend. And so she took the plunge, she took the step, made the decision, and we helped as much as we could as a studio, and she really promoted her fundraiser, her crowdfunding, and so many people were able to contribute a small amount of money, which adds up to a full big day of recording audio and video in the highest quality to bring her songs to life, right? And that is the unique concept here. And
that was great.
Oh, it's very, very exciting because it means that basically it gives access.
Yeah.
Right? It gives access. So someone who has great songs or wants to make it happen, there's still work involved, but it gives an option.
Yeah, you can see a path to achieving it. And I know we've talked about this many times where artists often don't have the money, and many times because everybody wants to include art, or everyone that is sensible wants to include art in their activities, but very often they don't calculate to pay the artist.
Yes.
And so many times, actually a disproportionate amount of time, artists are really expected to carry the burden of that if they want to offer, that service. And of course, it's a big struggle because it can make such a difference. You don't want to say no, but at the same time, you spend, as you said, 20 years or more all the time probably trying to make those decisions. But when you told me about this example, I thought, well, there's not too many studios that would take on, that level of responsibility, like how to help the artists. Yeah. Not because they're not thoughtful, but usually because they feel like they don't have the time to do that. So, because it is time consuming.
Yeah. And it's not a guarantee either.
No, and it's
the fundraiser could not work out.
May not work. And then, but I think the other part is it's not creating a dependent system either. It's creating a system where all of us are involved in helping something move forward. And I know I was just involved in helping with a movie that cost a lot of money, as movies do, And when I think about that, there were about 13 or 14 people that essentially had to pay for that, at different amounts. And it could have never been created if it wasn't that a number of people saw that role as contributing in arts too. Like they may not be artists. And that, so in creating Cast Aside the Clouds, it was a real, in many ways, it was a great opportunity because it was talking about prejudice and putting an important social theme there. And in a way, it allowed an opportunity for someone who's not directly involved in that art to really support that art. So I think when we get to a point where people don't just let the person who's struggling to create a studio, to create opportunities, be responsible for it, but see that they have a role in trying to do what they can, not that people can always do things. Yeah. And I found, that's one thing that I found with the school in general, from the very beginning, I realized that if we don't create spaces and places for youth to perform, where they actually can be with an audience or even having the physical space, then they're not going to create as much. So we always try, you were involved very much in creating coffee houses that led to other things.
Yes.
When we had the International Grounds Cafe downstairs,
I remember
even
that.
Justin Bieber came and played, and that's in the museum. At that time, he was just a youth, probably in his busking days, I don't even know. But, and I just mentioned him because he's a known artist, but there's so many people that came to perform to other youth while they had coffee. Yeah,
my brother and I performed there too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Yeah. So, so maybe you could, I'm just thinking about the issues and how does the community support or create spaces that inspire youth and others to create?
Yeah, well, I think you are at the cutting edge of that. You and the school, is at the cutting edge of creating those spaces. And so really, I think people can learn from Nancy Campbell, can really think about, okay, what are they doing over there, for real, and kind of get involved and learn. And maybe that's what this podcast is helping with too, getting stories out there. But in general, material means are important. It's the practical side, because you can have the greatest vision and dream of creating something, but without the material means and resources to do it, it will never come to fruition.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest struggles is to get those material means. That being said, I've also seen artists who think they have a great vision and want to make this vision happen, but really lack the understanding or experience to even make that vision come to life, given the means and resources. So I can also see that someone who has the means and resources shouldn't just give them to anybody, should really be thinking and finding a way for that person, that artist, to be committed. And that's actually your sister, Nancy, who shared with me when I thought of the crowdfunding idea. She said, make sure the artist gives a down payment. It's a practical advice. And I thought, well, why would you do that? I'm trying to help the artist. She said, it's not about the money when you do the down payment. And she said the down payment will just count to their services anyways. But she said the down payment is a commitment from the artist. And if they have to pay something, then they will follow through. And I think that was actually the case with this last one we had, which is if you have to pay some hundreds of dollars up front, you're invested.
Yeah.
You're in there. I've invested my personal money into this.
Yeah, and if I'm committed, I'm not going to hesitate, because I'm going to say, well, okay, great,
Exactly.
Because I know I'm going to make it work with the people that I'm working with.
Yeah, so I would say that's one of the backbones of creating a space for dynamic community arts to take place, is that the artists should have to be able to commit, and then those with the means and resources should also be committing, but there needs to be a level where they meet eye to eye, because if I have all the means and I've worked very hard to collect those means, and I just give it to someone and then it turns into nothing, then it's hard to talk about process over product. It's I gave
you're wasting money.
I gave you $50,000 to make this thing and there's nothing to show. Yeah. It's like, oh, but we treated each other well. It's like, well, that's not what I paid for. So that's another case where we need to really think about that. And then the other one is sort of the stuff that the school does, which is the moral leadership capabilities. Because you can get artists and people together, but things can fall apart quickly. Projects can dissipate. Things can go wrong. So we need those moral capacities to be developed and thought about. We need reflection and action. And okay, it didn't go well. So-and-so got mad. Okay, let's talk about it. And so that needs some sort of leadership, right? And it needs moral leadership, essentially.
Yeah.
So
where we bring all the
the
parties
and
together.
Other than that, I think the rest is just the details of who's involved. But really, those are the core concepts in my experience so far. Like that's what I see here. You have invested in this space. I've invested in this space.
Yeah.
And together, we've created something that many can benefit from.
Yeah.
But there is a clear core foundation. And I think you trust me because you know that I'm doing this in the school because I want it to be in the school, because I know the school's vision and backbone. And
what a vision it provides to the youth who see this in the school, and then they're thinking, wow, this is part of the school, and I can develop my talents, and I have a way to, I have a channel, like I kind of see administration as opening the doors for the talent to develop. And we have to figure out how to do that. And I think people have a false idea that when you want to support something, like I have never been able to support something when I've had the money. Like everybody always, like the money always is supposed to go in 10 directions. It's not any different if you have, $10 or if you have $100.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are calling for it. And that's when your moral commitment becomes an issue, because, okay, how am I going to prioritize this? Like in Cast Aside the Clouds, that movie, that was not timely. Like I could not. I wanted to say there's no way, but then I had to then I thought, no, this is just too important. So I've got to figure out how. So even in providing resources, there's a lot of challenges that people face. And I think that the most successful moving things have to be involving sacrifice.
Yeah.
And sometimes, usually, more sacrifice than you think and more than you even can do. But again, it's about that commitment and figuring, okay, so how can I? If we want something, you know where a person's heart is by where they put their money. You're going to figure out what your priorities are and figure out how to reach there.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been great. I'm so glad that you took the time to do this. I think, as you said to me once at the end of a podcast, somebody could listen to this over and over and figure out the steps, and whether they're a musician creating art or someone that wants to do a studio or somebody that wants to make a contribution in some other way, the steps and the knowledge and the wisdom of experience that you've shared is, I think, so valuable. So thank you very much for doing it. And
thank you.
I wish you luck in your now almost dual role of assisting Belize and Canada to advance civilization. And I think that's going to unearth a whole bunch of new talents that'll be very exciting.
I'm very pumped. And it's fun to have the role switch. I got to interview you last time.
That's right. You did. You did. That's great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Keep well.
Likewise. Thanks, Bennett. You're welcome. You're welcome.